Welcome to The Last Standee, a board game podcast coming to you from 4 countries across Europe. Audrey is not with us today as they are moving home, so I'm joined here today by Alexis, Alessio, David, and I am, of
Oh,
course,
he's
your
sad.
host, Fen. Say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, hey.
Hi. So we're going to be talking about a range of different topics across the hobby. Today we're going to start with seeing how everyone's doing in the podcast catch-up. So what have you guys been up to? David?
Infinity terrain, like mostly like consoles, which are a bit difficult to build, but it's still a lot of fun when you see like everything coming together after a while.
Yeah, they're plyboard, aren't they? Like pre-cut, and you assemble them.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are pre-cut, then you have to assemble them with wood glue.
Hmm. I know the process. I do it for building inlays because inlays are never good enough, and I can guarantee you we're going to talk about inlays at some point on this podcast.
Definitely.
Yep. Alessio, what have you been up to? Yep. Alessio, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, this week was fulfillment week for Kickstarter. I got Pax Pamir second edition from Where Geek Games, and it was great. And also, I played a bit of King's Dilemma with my friends over the internet actually for the weekend. So it was a pretty nice weekend.
Ooh, no spoilers because I've played through King's Dilemma, but how far have you got in? A few years?
Oh, yeah, second generation of kings. Actually, the
Ooh.
first king was mine, so silly names. Holy.
It's 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 really great, isn't it? It's just doesn't feel too complicated, but feels quite meaty and weighty and important.
Yeah, I had a talk already about it. Actually, it's a very simple mechanic which lets you to make a very compelling story. So nice, nice, nice. Very
Agenda of how you're going to play, which is a nice addition to it. It's a great game, and I keep eyeing up the stores around here to see if when it comes back into stock, because I'm very tempted to get a physical copy for playing over a long period. Feels like a good game you can play with some people who visit once a year, for example.
fine. So I get the best of both worlds.
Oh, nice! You're getting all the legacy stuff.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
basically, fun thing about King's Dilemma is that actually the game is made by Hjalmar Hach, which is a very Italian name because it's absolutely a totally Italian.
Hmm. It's not doesn't feel that Italian in theme. At least I can't think. But it's been a while since I played. I think the houses all have a slight sort of maybe hint of a national theme. That a bit like there's some things about them remind.
Well, yeah, that's Italian politics for you.
Yeah, that's it indeed. And Alexis, what have you been up to?
Well, I finally started playing Veins of the Heart, the latest expansion for the Seventh Continent, and it is incredibly good. It really shows that they've learned what works and what doesn't, and what the community wanted. And I feel like every single expansion from the second Kickstarter was a lot better than the first one.
That's my favorite course actually. It's much better than a prize on clothes, which I found a bit fiddly, messy, and difficult.
Hmm. Is that newer Curse released or has it been around for a while?
It has been around for 2 years. It's the latest that they released since their latest Kickstarter. I've just been slow to finally play them.
Yeah, we should talk about Serious Pulp about how they.
Slow to finally play them.
Yeah, we should talk about Serious Pulp about how they handle Kickstarters, but it's actually I'm mostly in agreement with them. But basically, that's the white box expansion from the last Kickstarter, and they began selling stuff on their store too. So you might find it there.
Yeah, that's where I got my copy of Seventh Continent from, was from their store. Um, and I decided Seventh Continent and Seventh Citadel that comes out are going to be my. I'll just pick up what I feel like rather than get everything games because sometimes successfully, sometimes not. It's a lot easier when you just buy something from the store, though, to not want everything. Whereas if you get it from like eBay or like somewhere else in the market, for some reason for me, I'm suddenly like, ooh, I want more. I want more. Come on, I can get all of this stuff.
Yeah, especially in Kickstarter where it's sometimes, hey, you can get more cheaper and maybe for the only time, so you better get onto it now.
Yeah, tell me about it. I went all in on the Darkest Dungeon Kickstarter in the end, which
You were weak.
no, as I said before, I'm doing it for miniature painting. That I want to paint that style of models more than anything else. I might not get to play the game ever, but that's okay because I'll just get them up on my little nail polish racks in my display cabinet and just have them looking nice.
Those minis were beautiful.
They were. That I think they captured the style of the game in 3 dimensions perfectly, and it's a different style to a lot of other games, and kind of one I think I'd really enjoy painting. So yeah,
Yeah, those minis look really unique compared to
they
others.
they do. Although I was a bit perplexed because, but near the end of the Kickstarter, they went, "Here you go. Here's an alternate sculpt for this creature or this." I can't remember even what it was. They stuck out 2 alternate sculpts they're putting into the box. What it was, they stuck out 2 alternate sculpts they're putting into the box. You don't get extra cards. You don't face 2 of them at a time, as far as I can tell. It's just, here you go, have more plastic because our sculptor had these spare versions. Right, so we're going to get on to our topics now, and I believe this time David's got the first hand. And speaking of modelling, and painting, it's going to be about Infinity. So take it away, Dave.
So, what is Infinity? Infinity is a sci-fi skirmish game released by Corvus Belli. Recently, the 4th edition was released. You know, there was a lot of bloat and a lot of rules in the 3rd edition. But now they got rid of it and they streamed like a lot of things. Like they took a skill, and before it was like a whole list of skills compromised into one, and now you have like only those single like tags for it, you know. So Infinity is a sci-fi game settled 500 years into the future. Humanity is set at the distant stars, and the interesting thing about for me is it's like a sci-fi setting, but without like this grim dark 40k style, but it's more like a anime style cyberpunk setting, similar to Ghost in the Shell. The artwork for it.
Well, yeah, actually, it gives me also a cyberpunk vibe and the Matrix vibe and something I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen Infinity on and off for years, and the models have never been my cup of tea. Really, the game isn't my style either, but they certainly do. As that might even be a theme for today, maybe simplicity in gaming can do a lot, especially if you can still keep tactical depth at the same time.
What I've always enjoyed with Infinity is not as much the miniatures, but the fact that you have all of those beautiful environments that you can make on your own. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I think it's a great way to play a war game into having cardboard made environments. I think it's really great.
Yeah, yeah. I love Necromunda for the same reason. These towering blocks and all that. But obviously, Necromunda's a very grungy industrials feel. I love Necromunda for the same reason. These towering blocks and all that. But obviously, Necromunda's a very grungy industrials feel. They've got a lot of sort of Neo Tokyo stuff and things, haven't they? In this.
I love
Yeah,
that.
they have like you have like a lot of different environments, and most of the time you will see like your typical city maps with like in-game advertisement for like video games and shows that are placed inside the setting, which is rather fun to see. So in total, what's really interesting about this or something, you have like 8 major factions, including mercenaries, and in total it ends up with like 35 different armies you can play, which is like a lot, but they are not like in 40k or Warhammer. You have like a single army which have like special rules for the whole army, and here it's like this way. Instead of having like general special rules for a whole army, you have only models and miniatures and troops which have like a certain amount of rules, and they differ from each faction.
Right. So which tell us about the faction or factions that. So which tell us about the faction or factions that you like to play then.
Oh, I'm playing O12, which is like the space police, a bit like the Coast Guard, space Coast Guard, you could put it that way. And they are like law keepers. You have like a lot of miniatures which look a bit like Judge Dredd. Miniatures which look a bit like Judge Dredd and stuff like that.
Wait. Space Coast Guard. So, like, if somebody falls out an airlock, they're the ones on first response.
Yeah, or if you have like if there's issues with pirates and other things, they will try to take them down, or smugglers. Yeah, pretty much.
I've actually just placed an order for a copy of Jaws, the board game. I gave in. I wanted it for a long time, but I had no idea. This sounds quite sort of different to well, Space Marines.
Army, which is like a combined alien empire. They are sort of like the bad guys. They have like some hive mind in the background, which controls every aspect. But they look very different to like Tyranids and stuff like, or similar armies. Then you have like the Nomads, which is like the Nomads, which is like they are a faction which have like 3 giant spaceships, which they are mostly like hackers, information brokers, organized crime. You have like crypto banks on board of these ships, and they are like the general scum faction.
Yeah, I'm looking at the models.
General scum faction.
Yeah, I'm looking at the models now. It really does have a very heavy sort of anime vibe, but more the more serious looking anime style.
Yeah, they looked like a lot like some of the animatrix art style, or there's a series on Netflix with robots. Series on Netflix with robots of mini series of episodes. And
Yeah, Death, Love and Robots, wasn't it?
yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
and Robots.
That had some very good episodes and some very poor ones.
Yeah, agreed.
I loved the just to go on a tangent for a moment. I loved the episode. Just to go on a tangent for a moment. I loved the episode with the mechs, the farming mechs. That one was fantastic.
That's always the cost of an anthology, though, that some of them will be less good.
Absolutely, probably the strongest episode's the first one.
Yep, sure.
Do they have mech? Probably the strongest episode's the first one.
Yep, sure.
Do they have mechs?
Yeah, they have so-called tags, which are like piloted robots. Or you have like pilots in some of them, and some are like remote controlled, and they are like total threat on the field. Some of them can like climb super good. Others are like even camouflaged, and some of them can even deployed in hidden deployment, which means like it's like Predator style. You know, your opponent will not tell you that somewhere on the field there's this tech deployed. You will not see it unless he deploys it.
What's typically made out of? Are they hips plastic or are they metal or resin?
No, actually, they are like metal minis, all of them, which is rather unusual nowadays. But they are like really fantastic. They're a bit of a burden or a bit complicated to. They are like 28 millimeters true scale.
Yeah, hence the dimensions. For those people who aren't aware, true scale is where the proportions on the model are more closer to actual humans, whereas heroic scale, for example, is Games Workshop, where they have oversized hands and feet, and bigger, chunkier hands and feet, and bigger, chunkier proportions. And then, of course, you've got super deformed or chibis is another one. So there's a whole variety. So that gives these guys more of a they look thinner on the board and lighter. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Okay, now let's talk about how does Infinity play, and that's like for me the most important thing, to be honest, because you don't want to play like a boring tabletop game. Okay, so what's unique about the gameplay of Infinity? It's a gameplay of Infinity. It's a D20 based skirmish game. So at maximum, you have like 15 miniatures on the board, which is like not much compared to other games. But then you have like each trooper brings you different types. The interesting thing is like if I want to activate a trooper, it's not like let's say 40k where I activate a unit, then move a unit, move a different unit, but rather I can take an order from a different trooper and use that to activate the other trooper. So I can like just put everything down and just move 10 times compared to other games. And the thing is, your opponent normally it's like, okay, I will move my army, come back in 30 minutes, I will have a coffee. And here it's like you can actually react to your movements of your troopers on the field. It's like a bit like I don't know if you ever played XCOM, like Overwatch. That means like when I move a trooper down a road or something, and your trooper has line of sight to it, line of fire to it, he can actually like say react. I want to dodge. I want to shoot back. I want to shoot back. I want to like turn around and other things, which makes the thing really interesting because both players play at the same time.
I was wondering, how long would you say that it takes to like learn the rules with a friend that knows the game? Like, is it a game that you can pull out and play under 2 hours, or is it something that would take an entire afternoon? I'm just wondering to know, is it a pick and play game, or is it something that requires a lot more involvement?
I think, to be honest, like it takes a lot of time to get used to in the beginning, but once you learn the rules, it's pretty good. Like you can full game, you can finish in like 2 hours, I think.
That's good. That's pretty nice. It seems to be on a good middle range between spend warmer and a year to learn the rules and play some cool army combat and a less tactical board game. It seems to be a very nice middle range.
Yeah, actually, it looks like everybody that did a lot about Infinity. So I asked a friend. He told me I won't playing Infinity anymore unless they streamline the actions because you can do everything and a lot of stuff. And it was playing M3 version, I guess.
Yeah, sure. While N3 got a lot of praise as well, it's like it was a bit of there was too much bloat. Like if you have like one trooper and you want to do something and you can do it like in 10 different ways, it leads to like decision paralysis kind of. And you still have a lot of actions here in N4 as well, but it's like you still have a lot of actions here in N4 as well, but it's like way less.
So now you don't have to look at the manual for knowing what you can exactly do.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like way easier.
Okay, you convinced me. I will try it.
So in general, what is really interesting is like as mentioned before, the 3D terrain, because it's not like Warhammer 40k where you have a bit of terrain, but like the full table will be full of terrain if you play it properly. So you have like all this cover going on. You have a lot of different approaches, approaches to the objectives and stuff like that. And it plays a lot like a versus mode of XCOM or Jagged Alliance, which is like fantastic.
I was looking. There are a lot of cardboard boxes. It looks like old style Necromunda for me.
Yeah, it depends what kind of terrain you.
Necromunda for me.
Yeah, it depends what kind of terrain you pick, but there is rather cheap cardboard terrain available.
Don't insult the cardboard. I love cardboard.
Yeah, but you can get like a full table of cardboard terrain for like 20 euros, which is pretty good price for it.
Can you imagine being a board gamer who didn't like cardboard? You'd be in a lot of trouble. I really like your game, but could you do a glass board for me? And maybe cast some pieces in resin, and I don't want cards. No. Can I have like plastic cards as well?
Necromunda buckets were the saving grace of that game, I think.
Yeah, yeah, those bulkheads are still going strong, although they're starting to get harder and harder to acquire anywhere.
That is the reason I bought a 3D printer.
Yeah.
So, um, like to finish this topic about Infinity. So for me, the strong points of the game is like it's rather cheap to get into it. But here you can start with one of the starting boxes, which is much cheaper, and the rules are for free. There is like no codex-based system like for Games Workshop. The army builder is free. Then there is if you want to play with less complex functions, and the rules are even more streamlined, and there's less equipment, so it's like really easy to get into it.
That's great.
Is it okay if I go on a little tangent?
Of course.
Yep, that's what we do.
It reminds me a lot of Battle System. If you know that game, Battle Systems usually makes only cardboard terrains for different types of war games, and they are usually really high quality from what I can see. And I've seen that they decided to make their own board game, which seems to be a sort of weird campaign, reach team, sort of tactical co-op game. It seems really interesting. I've not played it yet, but it's been on my list for a while, and it also just reminded me a bit of Infinity because of the cardboard terrains.
I just Googled, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the most beautiful cardboard terrains that exist. But like this game specifically, Core Space has been on my list, and I was just wondering if one of you played it and could compare it to Infinity, because I was looking to get into it at some point.
No, but now I want stuff.
It looks really interesting, to be honest.
Then you
No, I've not played it either. I've seen this before actually. It's come up on my radar a few times, and it's reminded me of, I think it's that old is it Milton Bradley game Space Crusade that came out at the same time as Hero Quest?
yeah, Space
That
Crusade is Space
that
Crusade is basically
obviously, yeah. Go on, sorry.
no. Space Crusade is basically Hero Quest on the 40k universe.
Yeah, I've seen some old videos of like the adverts or something kicking around on YouTube, and it looked like quite a riot. But obviously, this has got way more walls. And everything. But it's very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe a topic for another day.
Maybe somebody picks it up and gives it a go. It says it plays for 1 to 6 players.
Oh, that's quite a lot.
We are
Yeah.
1 to 6 people. 6 people.
Yeah. Some might say 1 to 5, unless somebody's carrying around a conjoined twin they've not talked about yet. If you have, no shaming.
Sounds like something like Tobias Funke would say.
Who knows what the future has in store for us?
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that would bring it on to our next topic. That's me. That's my topic. I've chosen this week, or this fortnight, this episode, to talk about a game that I've had for quite a while, and so far, I've never had a bad game of it on the table, and always have had people going, "Ooh, win or lose, they want to have another go." It's unfortunately from a now dead company, so picking it up on the secondary market is difficult, but there is a Creative Commons released version of this game on Tabletop Simulator, so you can play it legally online with your friends right now, and the game is Fireteam Zero from Emergent Games. It was a Kickstarter game originally. I picked it up when it hit the stores, and it is a World War II weird war kind of setting. So it takes the trappings of World War II, but instead of having your foes be other people, humans, it is about a ragtag group of allied special ops fighting against creatures created by weird corrupted artifacts. The core game has 3 different campaigns in it, and each of you plays like a single character in a class based system. There's a close combat, marksman type, a close combat, marksman type, a leader type who uses a shotgun and has sort of support abilities, and a demolitionist slash first aid, which is one of my favorite ideas. It's like, okay, so this guy heals people and throws explosives. Sure. So they're called the Fire Team Zero. Everyone will pick one of those classes to play. You need at least 2 characters, but it scales really well between 1 and 4 players. And once you've done that, you get essentially a deck. You have a scenario you set up that goes in an ongoing campaign against the Fetched, and the third one's against the Children of Typhon. So the one that you'll play first of all is the Infested, and they are like a bunch of corrupted animals and humans, sort of perverted and changed into these sort of horrible mixed up messes. So there's a heavy, and I like the theme of the game. I like the models, but what I really love about this is the mechanics. And this is a great example of, if you do everything right, you can be very simple in what you're doing, but it still be deep and tactical and challenging.
Yeah, before you, I had a look on. You sent me that video before, and I had a look. And like in general, the gameplay reminds me a lot of those co-op shooters like Left 4 Dead or Vermintide. Looks like very similar, and that's pretty much put into a board game, which is like really interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say it is like Vermintide slash Deep Rock Galactic slash Left 4 Dead, in that it's not about killing monsters, it's about hitting those objectives, and you've got to keep moving while doing it, and you've got objectives, and you've got to keep moving while doing it, and you've got to work together. So characters. Your character is basically a single card that tells you who you are and a little bit of like what your role is and what weapons. It's almost entirely a flavor piece of card, but the bulk of every single card in it is made up of 2 different aspects. You've got a top half, which is your attack that you can play, and on your turn you can play any number of those attack cards that match the same weapon type. We'll talk about weapon types because that's also really cool. But as example, Shad, the close combat expert, who I almost based attack cards, but he does have a little bit of sort of ranged. On the bottom half of these cards, though, is your reaction. Now, this is something you can play under certain circumstances. An example here would be this has a range of 1 space, so that's the space you're in or 1 next to you. Play before an ally performs a bullet attack to increase their attack strength by 2. So essentially, Shad helps someone by also firing at the same target with a hip shot, it's called. Which is 2 things your cards do. However, there's a third thing. Your cards in hand are also your health in a round. So the more you spend in a turn, and you could spend all of your cards in one action if you wanted to, the less health you have. Every damage you take from the monsters attacking, you've got to discard a card. If you can't discard a card, you're down. So there's this real knife edge of balancing every single turn, and you can also look really quickly at your friends, at your other characters, and immediately see, oh god, he's got 1 card. Okay, so he's low, he's in trouble, we need to protect him. Or don't worry about it, look, I've still got 4 cards, I can soak a few hits. It's neat. But on top of all of that, they stack the deck with these absurdly powerful special actions. You've got 2 of them per deck. And they just do. They either have a devastating attack on the top half, or on the bottom they got a tactical response. Which, if you play it, you can't draw any cards for the turn. So whatever you've got left over, that's what you've got. But you get to do amazing stuff. Like the marksman can just decimate every single foe within a quadrant, not just a space he's in, but like a whole quarter of the board. Or Shad here can like attack every single monster in the sector. So you get to do really huge, cool things. But I love that you look at your hand and you go, I know how much health I have, I know what I can do, and I know what I can do to help others. Bam, all in one place. Then the flip side of that is the creatures, which they are essentially a single stat card. They have a basic AI. They move towards you. They attack you. That's it. That's all they do. They keep spawning from these same 12 points across the board, which are randomly determined in number, but they're all functionally identical. And they keep pouring at you. So some people describe this as like a tower defense game, except you're a moving tower. I think the description of this is like Left 4 Dead is much better.
What I really found interesting is like there's not only those monsters are always coming back, like they are keep spawning and respawning. So that means the longer you take the same amount of monsters. But what I really found interesting is this mechanic that they get more and more dangerous.
Yeah. So that's the plot twist mechanic, and as time passes, every 3 turns you have to draw a plot twist from the deck, and they gain a new ability, and that changes depending on infested can gain the ability to throw. It says all minion attacks with a range of 0 have their range increased to 1. And that's just very simple, but another one would be if a blank is rolled when activating a monster, re-roll it so they do stuff more often. Yeah, they even end up moving faster instead of attacking if they're out of range. It can really throw a wrench in the works. If they're out of range, it can really throw a wrench in the works. And there's a lot of tension on that third turn each time when you're flipping a card. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, there's so many little neat pieces that are packed into this. The spawn points I mentioned are also your objective points. You have to go there to search to try and find draw recon cards, and the recon cards include the objectives. So you don't get to avoid the spawn points. You've got to move towards them. And I think that's like a very nice additional piece of tension. The first mission, for example, you're trying to find a propeller, fuel, and you also know one of them is going to trigger an elite to attack you. And that's like, oh goodness, I don't know. There's 12 search locations. I've got to check. I could have to check all of these. It could be the first one. It could be the last one. I have no idea. We've got to have enough in us to go. And then if allies, and they are just NPCs who help your models, your troopers. These guys give you extra bonuses, but they always have to be escorted by at least one of the members of Fireteam Zero. If the person escorting them gets knocked down, then they can get attacked, and that starts causing a ton of problems as well. So it's really like there's a lot on. Professor Monroe gives everyone a reroll on their dice when attacking. Wonderful, but he can't fight himself at all, and Patrick Cake Walensky, apart from having a weird name, helps you have a free search if you're within one space of him. There's a whole load in the expansions, but those are the two you get in the core game.
So always need to take care that they are not getting eaten by a mutated syphilis-infected koala bear, pretty much.
Yep. You have to babysit them the entire time. They do help you for it, and often you'll find people want to stick near, depending on whether they're searching or whatever they're doing. But yeah, like you have that other extra bit of jeopardy where one person's looking after both temporarily, and suddenly some twisted spawn nearby, some infected come pouring in, and you're like, oh god, we've got to get over there. We have to get over there and help them, because that could be it. And that brings us to one of the last two mechanics I want to. It's face up. It says liberty, in God we trust. Lovely. First time somebody loses all their health, as in they have no cards in hand and they get attacked and they take a hit, you have to flip that coin face down. They get knocked down. They can get back up a bit later whenever you choose. They can play dead for a little bit if they need to, but game over. Absolutely. A few rare occasions can make the coin flip up and you get an extra life, but that's like a whole extra level of tension. No one ever gets eliminated because you win or lose together.
What's the other side of the coin then?
Oh, the back side of the coin is simply a scored cross, and it's got MC classes. So that's we're about to lose.
That's
But
pretty
nobody get knocked over. Yeah, it's just been crossed out. Yeah. So then you've got the dice to attack with. Now, they did a really nice thing in this game. They combined all 3 different attack types into a. Now, they did a really nice thing in this game. They combined all 3 different attack types into a single dice. So you have printed on the dice, they're custom made. You've got fists for melee, you've got bullets for range, and you've got grenades for explosive. When you're attacking, all that matters is the type of attack you're doing. So if you're printed on the dice, they're custom made. You've got fists for melee, you've got bullets for range, and you've got grenades for explosive. When you're attacking, all that matters is the type of attack you're doing. So if you're rolling fists, you only care about what fists you roll. If you're doing bullets, so on bullets, explosives, grenades. The weighting is different. So fists, for example, 5 sides have fists on them. One has 2, the rest will have 1. So fists are very reliable, but they don't deal a lot of damage. If you roll 3 dice with fists, you might roll 6, but you're very unlikely to because that's like a 1 in 100. Contrast, explosives have a load of blank sides, but they have 2s and 3s on a couple of the sides, and they're the only ones who can manage this incredibly big burst of damage. So if you're somebody who likes a reliable, dependable fighter, you might go with melee. If you love the thrill of like not knowing exactly what's going to happen, the demolitionist is exactly for you because you can suddenly just go, I'm going to blow everything up. And that's the other thing. Explosives hit everyone in the same space that which you're attacking. So that's one of those situations you've got to watch out for friendly fire. And sometimes you will have people going, it's okay, fire. And sometimes you will have people going, it's okay, you've chucked a grenade in here where I am because we need to blow all of these up. It's great.
Reminds me of like when you leave somebody behind Left 4 Dead or
leave me. Yes, yeah. Yeah. So the other last this game is development. As you go through a mission and complete it, and onto the next one within a campaign series that tells a story, you get a little bit of upgrading. Now, all characters have access to what's called focus, which is a single card that gives them a special ability. You get to pick that at the start of the scenario. Just to give you a couple of examples, against the monster as a reaction when it moves into your location or adjacent one. That's Overwatch, basically, as you were just describing. Or you could say have there's one card literally called Overwatch, but a field tourniquet as the demolition, which is once per mission you flip the lucky coin to heads an action, which is pretty cool. But also you get to customize your decks, which I really like. You swap a few cards out, you get to swap in this big pile of upgraded cards and change things, and you get to customize and tailor what you want your character to be doing. It's actually very hard, so to work out exactly what I want to be doing. Yeah, no, and so there is more, but I'm not going to just keep on gushing on and on about the game. What I really wanted to bring is this game is simple. At a glance, you can look at the table, you can understand where you are, how far you can move, how far the enemies can move, how bad the terrain is, whether the terrain has benefits or not. It's all just laid out for you straight away. And also with card health system, the ability to look at it and go, okay, I know who's in trouble, I know who's got lots of health. It's all very transparent and very straightforward, but there's so many opportunities for wrinkles. I didn't even touch on it, but there's a monster dice that you don't, and you've got that bit of randomness in it, and it adds to the stakes and the tension on top of the randomness of whether you get hit or not, or whether you score your hits. But it feels good, and I think more than anything, if somebody's going to say what's an example of a hard game that does it right-ish, win or lose, you're often like, again, either you want to push further on in the campaign, see what the next scenario is like, how they switch up the objectives and what you're trying to do, or you just got beaten. Like the last game we played, literally we lost on the final location before getting to the ferry. It was just so.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
replayability wise,
Mm-hmm.
how different it is each mission. Like you seem to mention that the objectives are always sort of the same, but I'm guessing that there's a good amount of change and things to mix it up?
Yeah, so per scenario, the objectives are always the same. As I said, the first scenario, you're always going to be trying to find the propeller and the fuel for the boat and killing things to generate some specimens for the professor. But you have a recon deck, and those objectives are shuffled in there, and they're spread out between 12 different locations. So you don't know how easy it is going to be to find everything. Um, and then the new later scenarios mix things up further. And there's expansions. While they're not on the TTS not demo, but full game, you can get the Africa cycle, which adds a whole new faction and new adventures, new scenarios in, and the European cycle. And there's also a bunch of packs that change the way the monsters behave, and you can even get a deck that does generation, and so it randomizes missions. So there's a lot of replayability. I've played the first scenario a whole load of times with people, and I've never got bored of it because it still changes. It's still always engaging and tense.
Fan, you might be a Knizia fan after all. You like
No,
a
no,
ga-
no.
you like a game where
No.
a card does multiple things and you don't have enough. You have to do more stuff than you can, but you would want to do more. So that's basically Knizia mechanics.
Oh, well, I'm sorry if it's not modern art or masters gallery. I'm not super modern art or masters gallery. I'm not super excited by it. I get your point. I've got nothing against Knizia as a designer. He's very talented, like Uwe Rosenberg as well. But it's just not my jam.
Yeah, of course, it's not popular. Not of course, it's not popular. Not it's actually a lot popular, but not among our kind of gamers. I love him, for example.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a lot of Knizia games, and I've sold a lot of Knizia games, and so I've just had to come to conclude that I've got the ones I like, and he does a lot of doing the same thing over and over, in my opinion. But he's still what he does is very good, and if you enjoy it,
No,
fair play.
that's actually true. He is a lot self-referential, so
Mhm.
a lot of games feature common elements of design, but it's always a smart game. So uh, nobody expects someone to have 200 Nixia games, but if you can have a collection of 6 or 7, you're okay.
Yeah. Look, if you can get him on the blower and really enjoy it.
Of course, we'll try Quest for Eldorado first.
Okay. Well, that's me gushing over Fireteam Zero pretty much over. And now it's time for our last topic of the podcast. We're going to take a look at Lancer from Massive Press.
Okay, so Lancer is an RPG that I really enjoy. It came out a couple of years ago on Kickstarter, and it is basically a mech role-playing game where you spend a good amount of time choosing what kind of a frame you want to use, and then fitting that mech with different abilities, and then coming into battle and basically doing a very tactical oriented game with your mech. What I find interesting is that they really separate the mech combat as being extremely tactical and out of the mech combat being a lot more roleplay heavy, which is something that I like because with RPG games, I'm usually a lot more interested in role playing something that is story heavy and that is player driven rather than being stat driven or dice roll driven. But with Lancer, since they separate the two really neatly, I'm a lot more comfortable with playing something that is more wargamey. So yeah, Lancer is set thousands of years into the future after the population of the Earth has been wiped out. Another human population rose out of the ashes and formed a spacefaring civilization. It's an interesting setting as it allows itself to be far detached from our current history while still having relics from the old Earth. Mechs will often have mythical names, for example. Weapons will be named after fabled ones like Gungear or Excalibur, and every player are talented lancer pilots, which is in that setting a sort of modern cavalry, as they will reinforce foot troops and vehicles onto the battlefield, as mechs are harder to control but much. What really drives the game, in my opinion, is that tactical combat.
Yeah, personally for me, the standout, I had to look at it right now, like the artwork. It looks rather unique. It's not super high polished, but like some of the mechs, they look like really like dangerous, and others look like
Yeah, it managed to really set itself apart by having I think that the art reminds me a lot of Mobius, the French artist. Um, it's really cool since it takes a lot of inspiration from Japanese mech anime, but without being just Gundam or anything. It's a mix between Western and Eastern type of artwork, and it managed to have its own very specific style, especially since the game has a few different mech creators, and so there's a few different mech design that are completely data sketch, which gives each constructor a very different voice. But yes, the artwork of the book is absolutely incredible, and it's made by the artist of called Abaddon that made a webcomic called Kill 6 Billion Demons that is apparently really good, but I haven't read. Billion Demons that is apparently really good, but I haven't read.
I have one question. So you get to pilot a mech?
Yes, you get to pilot a mech. Basically, you play as the mech controller, and you can, in between mission, fit your mech. The mech controller, and you can, in between mission, fit your mech however you want with different type of abilities and stuff. And the game is played on a X map, and the idea is that each mech will have different abilities that allow them to control the battlefield. So you can have just a normal rifle, but you could also have be able to launch turrets around the battlefield that can control an area and shoot whenever you attack the enemy mech. You can also have stuff that pushes the enemy or that lure them forward. You can have hacking abilities that function a little bit like quote unquote magic from another game, where you're able to use your hacking skill to make a mech overheat or something like that. So yeah, you control a mech and you play as the mech on the battlefield in a very board game slash war game type style.
Okay, so this is all we need to know. Basically, everyone go buy this game. Podcast done. Cue music.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah, even better than that is that I think that they gave away the game for free 4 times, so you could I think they might have changed that now, but I think that you can get the PDF for free and then buy a more expensive like
Yeah,
with more artwork version for like $25. It's
I
really good.
just download.
It's really good.
I just downloaded the core book for free. So yeah, it's still there. Uh, you remind me a lot of Xenogears video game. You know Xenogears from
Yeah.
Square Enix? Yeah, that's a lot cool. Is it anything like that?
Um, it is, but it's smaller type mechs than Xenogear. They're more like 2 to 5 meter tall, with some exception being really large.
No Weltal 2, no Xenogears.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very close to Titanfall 2, actually. I think that's what you're going to play with
Oh,
Lancer.
like that.
yeah, forsooth. What I'm wondering is like, do the mechs have like their own characteristics? You know, like are they AI controlled?
The GM will control the enemy units, and thankfully there's like sort of easier version of the different mech that the GM can use. So they have less deep and detailed action, but there's usually more of them, and you can keep track of it. One thing that I really love with the game is that they create what they call the ComCon, which is a web app to create your mech, fit your mech, run the combat. And the thing is that you need the GM. You need the GM. Like there's no AI. It's not automatic. But what is really incredible is that it just looks gorgeous. We'll include a link in the description. Even if you're not planning to play the game, just go have a look at this website. It's insanely good.
Okay, very cool, very cool, very cool. You may have said this. I missed because my dog has been whining at me and demanding to go out. She wants a walk. The combat, is it? Do you take place on a map, or you said it's very tactical? Is it like?
Yeah. You need to have a map. Is usually a problem for me when I play RPG, since I'm terrible at drawing. You can obviously just take a blank map and make whatever you want, but for the games that I've been rolling on Roll20 for the past few weeks, what I've done is actually I might include a couple of pictures on the show notes. I'll see if I find something that isn't too awful. But yeah, you need to have a map and then play around that.
So do you have Do you have little standees to represent your mech, or a token or something?
Yeah, you have little tokens. There's no standees coming with the game, but they've made your tokens. They also made a website where you can customize your own tokens that I'll also link, because again, it looks incredible. They did an amazing job with the not the feelies, but like the stuff around the game. And so you make your own token and then you print it out, or make a little cardboard thing, or you can even try to 3D print it. Some people did it, and it's again very insane. But yeah, that's how you play.
So there's quite a few different sort of like mech games like this. I'm trying to think. So is it which is it, BattleTech or MechWarrior that's more RPG based?
I think it's BattleTech. I've only played BattleTech. I've not played
More RPG based.
I think it's BattleTech. I've only played BattleTech. I've not played MechWarriors. The thing is that usually mech games tend to be extremely complicated, where fitting your mech, you have to worry about the weight, and when you roll for damage, you roll like 5 dice. You worry about the weight, and when you roll for damage, you roll like 5 dice, and you have to think about it. They're very they're very crunchy. What is good about Lancer is while the game has a lot of tactical opportunities, it's usually very simple. There's only a few dice roll to do during your action. You only have a certain number of action, and they're all very simply listed, but there's enough to make some really interesting and cool decision at all time. I think that the game managed to stay tactical, but never get too crunchy to play.
All right. So that reminds me a little bit more of the way Cthulhu Tech do their mech stuff, which is very
much.
although they do it a lot more like just giant little characters inside them, but still. Or I should say, it's what is it? Giant characters inside get it right. It's little characters inside giant monsters inside robot suits. Is how they do their mechs, which I love. Maybe I'll talk about Cthulhu Tech at some point, because that's simultaneously brilliant and disappointing, though might have to put a not safe for work tag at the beginning of the whole discussion, because it's hard to talk about it without getting into a few of the more problematic decisions they made.
I think I heard about that before.
Yeah, they made a few decisions that I'm like, did you really have to do that stuff anyway? But it sounds like this is a lot more of a fun setting.
Yeah,
And,
I really think so. The setting also hinges a lot on AI, and in a very fun way, there's a lot of ways to play the AI as some kind of eldritch entities. Like there's a few AI that evolved without human interaction, and so they created those sort of godlike entities that can control entire solar system by themselves. And so there's if you want to play a sort of a tech Cthulhu version, you definitely could.
Yeah. It sounds like it sounds pretty cool, and it kind of sits a bit on theme with I think what we were going to briefly touch on to wrap up with. Should we move on to that, or do we have anything more we want to say on Lancer?
Concerning Lancer, I think I would go totally crazy, and try to build my mech with like kit bashing, you know.
If it has mech customization like Armored Core, then that's a game to try.
Yeah, I think that you would definitely enjoy at least having a look at it, Techless.
Yeah, I'm reading now.
Yeah.
So please wrap it up for me because I'll be reading Lancer now.
Well, I believe we just wanted to touch briefly on Aeon Trespass Odyssey, which, speaking of mechs, is another mech game.
Yeah, it is.
It is, yeah.
Disconnected offline remote mech.
And I just saw the update and I thought that it was worth mentioning. I have not read it into proper detail, but I just think that it's so good of a Kickstarter update. Like they really took the time to show gameplay, show production details, show how much they advanced. If you want to do a Kickstarter update, like this is what you need to look at. This is a good update that doesn't treat the backers as a second thought, but it really puts them at the center of what the game needs to be. I had my own gripes with ATO when it first came out during the Kickstarter, but I think that they're really I've worked hard to redeem that, and they're showing that they really care about what the game has become. They also recently updated the tabletop version, and I'm looking forward to try and see what they changed there.
Yeah, they showed a load of the production samples of the pieces in plastic and you know what, any doubts you had about what they were going to do with them, I own the resin copies of some of these models that they're showing, and they've not lost any detail at all. In fact, the Ulysses, the female Titan with a spear is, I think, actually looking better in plastic than she does in resin. Certainly more robust. But yeah,
Like, how big are those miniatures?
about 32 mil. But again, it's a true proportion rather than heroic, so they look a bit thinner and lighter overall, except for some of the really bulky ones like the lion.
Yeah, please someone comments on the pose of the Shadow Dancer Titan.
I'm not sure where the Shadow Dance Titan is.
Okay, it is the female Titan with stilettos on its legs, and she's kicking.
Oh, this I haven't seen that one actually before. No, I see just seen the artwork now.
It's brand new. They I think that they announced it at the end of the Kickstarter, and they had just posted artwork at the Kickstarter, and they had just posted artwork at the time, and now they finally are showing off gameplay. It might be it might be like a crossover or something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, she's the one. So that basically, the fun thing, the stiletto name, because stiletto, at least in Italian. So I don't know if this is a pun, which is intentional in all languages. But stiletto is the name of actually a knife, a dagger.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it is.
other than the heels.
Same
So
here.
yeah. I
I
think we all take stiletto from the same source.
found it very funny.
I
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a slight inspiration by Bayonetta in there.
Possibly. Let's have a look at the actual artwork. She's got a lot of black robing going on. It feels a bit more Persian in style though overall.
Yeah, well, it is for Gardens of Babylon, so yeah, it
Yep.
would.
Oh well, that would explain the look then. Yeah. Oh, I was just looking at
These
the artwork.
expressions.
Yeah. It's, yeah. They've done a lot to really move forward, and I do agree. This is what you want for for an update. There's a whole bunch of stuff about UI design and bits and pieces of samples of cards and things. There's so much going on in it.
Yeah,
Like
all
even showing examples of like actual, yeah, um,
Yeah, actual
things of them.
abilities from the enemies and stuff. Like this made me at least think that they know what they want to do with the combat, and they make me look forward to play it. I might actually, up my pledge and go with it a lot more now.
Yeah, yeah. The expansion stuff has always felt a bit more of a bit of a mystery, but I mean, look at this at the end of the update. This they've called it redacted, but it's a chimera type, the spider. It's
yeah,
yeah, like a goat-headed spider thing. You've not given any more details, but that's a lot shown there, but still very exciting. It's like, what is this thing?
actually, there's a lot of stuff which is done good. I especially like the reference to Greek mythology, which are now. I will pronounce this very bad, but I think there's a new kind of ship which is called a zero trireme, and that's actually the trireme was the most common ship in ancient Greece. So that's actually a very good reference, and it was a bit harder than your common Sisyphus myth. So they have kudos to them for that, actually.
Yeah, I believe they're quite the fans of Greek mythology and Greek history, and it does
Yeah,
show history, and it does
yeah,
show.
yeah. Marcin told us on BGG forums that they use the textbooks as reference, but they are pretty good textbook, I think.
Yeah, you've reminded me. I've still got quite a few of the models sitting around in my pile of shame. Pile of shame, including the Oracle of Time, I think it is, and the really big pyramid one.
Okay. I understood what it is, but I don't have the names because I don't remember all the primordial names by memory.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a big giant one with huge wings and a ton of like circles all over it. It's like almost like a winged hooded figure. Um, and the other one is one of the big bads from the first campaign.
Okay, I guess we have to do our research for that.
This is a great announcement. We can
Yeah,
milk it a little bit.
Yep. So next episode we'll be chatting with Marcin and the guys from Into the Unknown Studios about Aeon Trespass and their Kickstarter and their resin lines and models and where they plan to take things going ahead and everything. Just a nice long form topic episode all about one game.
Yeah,
yeah.
really looking forward for it.
Yeah. Should be should be a lot of fun, especially given how much progress they've made and how well they've been to sort of put it forward and show us and everything. Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which wraps everything up for this. Right. Well, that's it from us, and with our terribly messy closing section this time. Thank you ever so much for that. But we'll be wrapping up. So have a good one, and from me, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
Goodbye.